after October 7th, I'm Jewish, and I started doing a lot of advocacy work around supporting Israel and fighting.
Let's actually talk about this a little bit. This is Unlawful.
We're in Panama.
Nice.
It's gorgeous. Today's actually the most gorgeous day it's been while we've been here because they've been having their version of storms that's been everyone else in the East Coast or in the US on the East Coast has been getting snow.
Sure.
It's just been like torrential downpours, which is not standard.
Yeah.
And today it is just like sunny and stunning. And so
Nice. You talked about being on the beach. Do you surf or scuba or?
We just started learning how to surf.
Gotcha.
Yes. And I now understand why people surf. It's really fun. Do you surf?
Cool. No, so could I? Yeah. Do I? Not really. I honestly really like body surfing, but
my husband too.
There's a part of it that is similar, which is like when you feel it, it's like getting a runner's high. Like when you do it, even if it's only 1 in 20, it's like such an amazing thing that you're like, I want to feel that again. Yeah. So no, it's very good.
My husband has been a water person for his whole life, and I'm new to being a water person. I've only really started to enjoy being in the water in the last year or so since we started traveling, and I've gotten to spend more time in warm water because I do not like cold.
No, I hear that completely. Yeah, and it's always frustrating because we've done a lot of canyoning trips and stuff, and it's always fun to do those because it's like, if you want to do this, you have to be in the cold water. There's no way around it. So what do we need to do? We need to jump back in where we were, but I think my goal is really to find out a little bit more about what you do now, right? Both professionally and how you make that work, and then to get your unlawful moment, which may be interwoven into stuff that you've already said, and that's fine too.
I'm a very mission-oriented person, and I wasn't feeling connected enough to the work I was doing and to the clients I was working with and to the environment I was in. A number of things just weren't the right fit. And I'd been thinking about going in-house. After October 7th, I'm Jewish, and I started doing a lot of advocacy work around supporting Israel and fighting.
Let's actually talk about this a little bit. So you were in DC and you were fixing the health space, right? Originally, that was your ambition.
Yeah,
right?
I thought I was going to fix all of it.
Yeah,
On that. I haven't let go of.
No,
yeah.
I get it. And you can't, because as you discussed last time we spoke, it's a very real part of your health is a very real part of your life, like an everyday part. So you were in DC, right? And you were fixing the health space. At some point, and we talked about this, there was this 5-year process or 4 or 5-year process or decades-long process, a decade.
Mindset of at some point I'm going to move. Well, after college, my twin sister and I discovered we went to California for the first time, and we realized that we felt healthier there. We just felt better. And so we decided at the time, okay, when I'm done with law school and she's done with med school, we're going to move. That didn't happen. And then I moved to DC after law school, and I was so sick there for just all sorts of reasons, including just everything around the environment and the allergens and the air quality and the everything about the climate. And so it got to a point where my husband and I were like, it's really stupid to live somewhere where you feel worse when there's a place that you could feel better. So let's make this move happen.
Sure.
And so that's what led to us moving to California.
And then when you moved to California, were you between... You talk about mission orientation and jobs or profession, whatever you want to talk about, career. Were you between things, or did you have a professional mission as you moved out to California too?
Both.
Okay.
I was in a weird in-between sort of phase in that I was recovering from a really serious concussion, which was my 6th concussion. So I had actually been on leave, which I was so terrified about because I had all these fears about it was the first thing I'd been unable in my life to push through. And so who am I if I can't push through this thing? And what will people think of me if I can't push through this and I actually have to take time off to heal from a very serious head trauma?
Sure.
And so I was taking time off. And I also knew that the work I'd been doing was not a good fit for quite a few reasons. And one of them being I really didn't enjoy the political nature of being involved in policy in the way that I was, because I had a really hard time with a few things, one of which was the slow pace It was really hard to work really hard on things all day long, every single day, on in some cases the same things for many years in a row, and then feel like, oh, so this member up on the Hill is just keeping this legislation hostage because, that person knows it's a good idea, but they want to get something out of this. So we're going to harm people because it's a game.
Wait, that happens?
Crazy.
In U.S. politics?
What? I know, it's wild.
Crazy.
So I struggled with that and a lot of other things in that realm. And I was also starting to understand how naive I had been that in thinking, oh, I'll work in the public health space and everyone's going to really have this shared mindset around public health.
They're going to agree with my changes and your goals and your priorities.
Yeah.
Right?
I also was having a hard time, being a professional in the room and also being a patient, but not feeling like I could talk about my personal experience, knowing about a lot of the work that I was involved in, and either feeling like, I tried to share my personal experience and nobody wants to hear from me because it doesn't feel that's not professional. Or I'm sure there are also times where I just was scared to try to speak up and maybe someone would have listened, but I'd already been very clearly guided to not talk about my personal life and my health. And so maybe I also missed opportunities out of fear of what would happen if I do tell you about who I am and what I've been through. So I was understanding more about what is it really like to work in this space. Not only that it's so hard because there's so many pieces involved and so many people and so much red tape, but also because just the political nature of it, and not feeling like I could put my whole self out there, and just feeling, wait, are we not all aiming for the same goal of healthier people? And it didn't feel good. So I started thinking about, I don't know, the health policy space. Parts of it work really well for me with the way my brain works, and just I like parsing through language. I like words. I'm very literal around language. So a lot of it did work really well for my brain, but a lot of it also really didn't work well for my heart.
So you had this gap, right? You had this kind of change in mindset where you wanted to transition away from that potential. You had this gap because you finally encountered this obstacle that you couldn't just push through. You had to take a break on, and you're also making this big move to California. So what do you start transitioning towards? We know what you're moving away from. What are you starting to move to?
I didn't really know. I started actually questioning, do I even want to be involved in healthcare law or policy at all? And I started talking to people about just like all of the other things one could do with a law degree. And I think I was still predominantly thinking I would be in law in some way, but I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I just had no idea. And so I started having a lot of informational kind of interviews and conversations, and just really casually, and just trying to understand what else is out there and what energizes me, what drains me, what feels really good for me to work on. And also started asking some lawyer colleagues, okay, you know me, what else do you think I might be good at? What do you think might be a good fit?
Both this process and the conclusion of this process, or the start to the conclusion of the next phase of this process, I think is really daunting for a lot of people in law. We talked about it a little bit the last time you and I spoke, and frankly, I talked to every law student and young lawyer about this, is that a lot of people start law school and they think, hey, I'm going into this space where I could do anything with the law. And then you get out and you either go to a law firm or you go to the government or whatever, and you're somehow convinced that's all you can do now. And I think that's really daunting for people. Both, like I said,
I felt like it was daunting.
Yeah.
That, again, I really wasn't even thinking about in the earlier phases when I had more of a focus also on, I just need to get through every day.
Yeah.
Then the fear started to build up, and the comparison game started to become just more part of my regular life.